poison, I get hit, so whoop, so whoop. I'm just dealing with my poison, I get hit, so whoop. I'm just dealing with my poison, I get hit, so whoop, so whoop.
There's no way of knowing if it's working though. You guys tell me. Don't kill yourself, dude.
Dealing with my poison, I can get it so whoop. I'm just dealing with my poison, I can hit it so whoop. I'm just dealing with my poison, I can hit it so whoop. I'm just dealing with my poison, I can hit it so whoop.
Oh shit, I should have made coffee, yeah? That's where my head's at. I should do that anyway. Point something out. I always buy the dented tin. I always buy the dented tin. It's not leaking, it's dented.
I'm the last of a dying breed. Twin hammers look like the Siamese. I got that beam from the Japanese. My French girl wavy, you remind me of mac and cheese. It is what it has to be. I'm killing out who's after me. They have to see me rich, and I swear it wasn't financially. Like who was running for it? They thought it was a tragedy. These bitches could have married that. It was a Magdalene. My shot like a little bro, a tagalog. It's these instrumentals we got with Dragamine. It's Rose with beer, real class ridges with Dragamine. The nigga with the gate and Sega was never Dragamine. The Megatron landing in Lebanon. We was slapping it back and forth like a catcher ball. Used to live on French Street, right in the Esplanade. Bitches run the ship and make us film it like espionage. You know that's why they set for it. Like why you niggas ain't protect your neck for it? Chopping in shits to be win. Like connect for the cylinder, always a spin. I connect for it right into the dome when I get it out the chest to joint rapper. When you go on tour, it's all music. Maybe when we go on tour, it's all shootings. Like other chefs got kicked, I gotta shoot it. Nigga, if you talk that talk, you gotta do it. Why they try me? I wear my heart on my iron sleeve. I'm the last of a down bread. Why they try me? I wear my heart on my iron sleeve. I'm the last of a down bread. Like he just wanna go on tour and make music. But every time you go on tour,
that's why I didn't want to fucking end the video.
Yeah, I'm the last of a dying breed. I uppercut these fucks in their chin and they fly with ease. I bleed what I have to bleed. This blood's what I have to see. So thick or sit with your fam. I call it Applebee's. Who the fuck trying to get stuck? Tell them that's for me. That match pack about to get struck. I brought the gasoline. I've never lost. I got OGs to get it back for me. Calm me down, calm with the crowd. Call me your majesty, God. They try to handle me, Lord. No, I'll play that. The bullets in that great Mac 8-track. They go way back. About them up, top your mark. Look where the safe at. Put numbers on your head. You already covered in face tats, boy. Why they always trying to snake that, boy? Charlie got the defibrillator to shake that, boy. Forget about it. You turn me to Rocky ASAP, boy. I'm the last of a dying breed. They wanna break that, boy. Like you bringing all that beat to the farm. My man's braided you. If you don't get respect in the streets, I can't stand with you. They tell you you a threat on the beat. Your man's scamming you. The Benz is like a beast when it spins. Crash Bandicoot. Pull up with a camera crew. Cannons in your face now. Anybody that's liking towards is like your face down. White boy, nice with a pen. This ain't no 8 Mile. We playing hopscotch in the spots where the body's traced out. Cause when you go on tour, it's all music. And baby, when we go on tour, it's just shootings. Drive-bys, your eyes wide shut, we gone Kubrick. So we ain't really battle that that talk, we just do shit.
Why they try me? I wear my heart on my iron sleeve. I'm the last of a down bread. Why they try me? I wear my heart on my iron sleeve. I'm the last of a down bread. Like he just wanna go on tour and make music. I'm the last of a down bread. But every time he go on tours, it's all shootings. I'm the last of a down bread.
That's why I didn't want to fucking end the video.
Black bandana, black and green bandana, 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 black bandana, black bandana, black and green, black bandana, black bandana, black and green, black bandana, black bandana, black and green, black bandana, black bandana, black and green. On that gang shit, on that we don't play shit. Let it spray shit, plus it ain't okay shit. Let it bang shit, let your colors hang shit. On that crazy shit, chopper spit and flame shit. Know you hate shit, know you mad today, bitch. We done made it, off the block we skated. Massachusetts, made its way to New York State. Puzzle Peace gang, we can take this whole country. One block at a time, bricks and halves, quarters, dimes. Flip it one more time, stacking paper, godless crime. Facts like shit, you dealt with on the real quick. Extra crisp, plastic filter to the tin. Black bandana, black and green bandana. 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 Black bandana, black bandana, black and green. 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 Tony Montana, he ain't got your shit on us now. Grow up children in the car because we give no fuck. Grow up your flag, grow up your signs and represent. Play with the crew, man, keep your guns, slit your neck. We dangerous like Buster Bus in 97. We aiming bustin', you wanna stairway to heaven. I'm about to life to get the fact I'm fucking white. I got that heart that's soft, I cook that fucking white. In my kitchen, serving feeds, feeding addiction.
Hey man, it sounds like we can pick on him for his race too. I can't say nothing
I
about
wait for
that.
flags of black and green like LA Crips. But we ain't done this puzzle piece, can't hear a bitch. Black bandana, black and green bandana. 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 Black bandana, black bandana, black and green. 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 Black bandana, black and green bandana. 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 Black bandana, black bandana, black and green. 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 Black bandana, black and green bandana. Black bandana, black and green bandana. Black bandana, black and green bandana.
Is there sound? Can you hear my ass? Do I have to do this again? Don't kill yourself.
These niggas have been sweating it. Don't get out the bed for when the phone a nigga begging it. I'm way ahead of it. I'll ride upon a nigga letting it off. When it comes to this rap shit, I've got this, and so is Jeezy Low. Man, agrees with folk.
Man, agrees with folk.
I still keep it close, case a man try provoke. 5 shots through his coat. Listen, if you know, then you know. I'm still on London's road, shot and bows, stashing knives in me clothes. If it's not your beat, don't get involved. Don't ride out and slap a nigga down, and no cases getting sold. Listen, I'm the shooter, you're the victim. I rode out with him and told police I went with him. I gave me boys follow tips, looks for the loot. Just said that's for that dude. The next day,
you will what?
I'm back on it, make this fucking shotty. Said I don't want it, I've got nowhere to put it. Plus it's out of bullets and I hate them shotguns.
Listen to that clip,
never got nowhere to stuff it. I'm riding out with hand things with bullets that expand. If a hitman by the barbers, he gon' land by pound. And then he lost, so don't act like you found, man. 8 bills for the Oz if you want that brown tan. Listen, I'm trying to stay low off the radar from Pope because I know they want me so. Still trying to find me from crimes that I did years ago, but I don't even give a fuck. I got fined once. They hit me with some threats, talk about they'll take the shit if I didn't pay the debt.
I will pay you with your own money, bitches. What do you mean you will? What are you talking about? You with your mom? That's cool. I will. What? You will what?
Straight Liverpool to Toronto. You know what it is?
I'm just glad you're back, because now I know you didn't kill yourself. I didn't want to leave the video because of that.
I'm like, bang, bang, shots fly, body found in the park again. So flew like an angel with the darkest sins. You can't fly with the carpet wings. So I had to watch him sink like agnostic shit. It's like I built this on my own, no partnership. I let it solo. Nigga, this my nigga, so I shot it up solo. First time I gave me the clip spilled for the phone. Yo, everything gets strong. And I'm like, word to my mother, this pop kills. And if I don't have it, then I know that this night will. See where I'm from? Man, know that the totally got sliver. Poor man, turn your liver to a polar blood. It's that real. Cap pill, but the gas will. And the thing gets stashed in the backfield. And I'm like, niggas been snaking and all that. You know I'm a boss. I took a break, but I'm taking it all back. Handles done smooth, pump short, cause I saw that. Guns with suppressors like I'm ready for combat. Yo, A-Star, all these fuck niggas beyond that. It's one phone call, 7 niggas in all black. You ready, nigga? Hot back and blow deadly, nigga.
Black
Stays
and
in my
red,
hand,
black and
can't
orange,
talk it,
black
it's
and
too heavy,
green,
nigga.
black and blue.
Hot back and blow deadly, nigga. Stays in my hand, can't talk it, it's too heavy, nigga.
Gotta leave the ass black and blue like cookie. You gotta keep talking, man. You can't just drop that on me and leave it like that. You can, whatever. Oh, I can't play this one. Well, I guess I could. What is, no, what am I listening to? Hold on. That was the producer's tag. Yeah, suicide. I have a pain condition called suicide disease. Nothing to, it's called that.
Nothing on my wrist, nothing on my neck, nothing on my fist, it's all on my chest. Don't you get the gist? I got
it's called that because one of the 2 people that gets this pain condition kills themselves in the first 2 years of diagnosis. I'm the other one of 2. I had this shit 20 years.
Industry got a complex. I turned reality into a lucid dream. I turned a lucid dream into whipped cream. Cash rules nothing around me. I only use it for paper planes, actually. I'm the opposite of Microsoft. I'm big and hard. Let that resonate, maybe a little more. I got that lyricism sprinkled with a lot of flow. I made my sauce authentic on a chopping board. Baby, it's spicy, be careful. Don't check the bottle too much, be gentle. It's kinda high on the Scoville level. Don't burn your tongue, don't get it in your eyes. I turned reality into a lucid dream. I turned a lucid dream into whipped cream. Cash rules, nothing around me. I only use it for paper planes, actually. Self-care, yeah, I got a lot of that. No food tastes good as having a six-pack. You should cut your snacks same way you cut that crack.
I don't know, man. I guess I didn't build me, man. I'm just genetics.
Baby, looking like a snack. I can see you did them squats on the squat rack. I don't need a beat, I don't really need a track. You can be my producer with your booty clap. I turned reality into a lucid dream. I turned a lucid
I didn't pick my
dream
genetics,
into whipped cream. Cash rules,
everything about
nothing
my
around
genetics
me.
is just
I only
survival.
use it for paper planes, actually. Baby, keep your pants on.
Whatever didn't kill my people off, how much left over? They gave us smallpox several hundred years ago. They put a price on our heads of 30 pieces of silver for the scalp, men, women, and children. It wasn't about war, it was about genocide.
Thought it was funny, nice joke. Cause you know
If I had darker skin or more aboriginal features, I'd be fucking dead. I wouldn't exist. That's what happened.
Cause I got the sauce. I said it cause I got the sauce. Shit, cause I got the sauce. Shit, cause I got the sauce.
It took me till now. I'm mid-30s fucking getting a diagnosis for the sickle cell. And that's painful in its own right too. The B19 makes it a lot worse. Makes it a lot worse. Oh, man, fuck.
CTM Music Group, baby. Woo! John Gotti, CTM Music Group, baby. Woo!
Did it just skip the very part I tried to play? John Gotti, CTM.
I was trying to get rich. We do it for the big face, dead presidents. I got a Lamborghini dream, still got Mercedes tips. And yes, I'm a boss, but I'm looking for a lick. You gotta get it how you live when life is like this. And yes, I need 36 a whole fucking brick. Rolling through the city, got my Louis Loafs on. And I told these motherfuckers, yeah, I get my smoke on. Cheech, Chong, bust out the bomb. Smoking all day, flipping bricks by the yard. And you can try to do it, don't quit your day job.
You can tell me if there's sound or not. I'm guessing if there's sound. There must be sound. You're answering me, right?
Yeah, I look like a model. B-I-O-R. Money in the rubber band, stack it till you can't work. Yeah, I got the trade it's got a real loud part. I do it dirt in the dark. I can do it broad day. I got too many doing JKs, SKs, long range. Red state, no brand. Who am I kidding? Motherfucking crime pays. Yeah, we're trying to get the paper, I'm just trying to get rich. We do it for the big face, dead presidents. I got a Lamborghini dream, still got Mercedes Benz. And yes, I'm a boss, but I'm looking for a lick. You gotta get it how you live when life is like this. And yes, I need 36 a whole fucking brick.
New York niggas is
Okay, no offense, but I think I heard that a few too many times in these videos.
Shout out to whoever made this beat.
Oh,
My
fuck,
G
I like
did
this
your
one.
thing, man. But no disrespect.
I can't go searching for other tracks while this is on, right?
I'ma ride for my motherfucking natives. Most likely I'ma die with my finger on the trigger. I've been grinding outside all day with my natives, and I ain't going in unless I'm with my native, 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 my motherfucking native, my 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 motherfucking native. Yeah, I'ma ride, I'ma die, and I'ma do it for my natives. So whooping and we're hooping, and I do it for my natives, for my natives. I put on for my natives, I show out for my natives, for my natives. I do this for my natives, I do this for my people, I do this for my tribe, I do this for myself. I gotta stay alive. My natives know what's up, 'cause cause my natives going down. Got my natives all around, from my town to your town. It ain't no problem, we do the damn thing. Posted with my BF, 59, 50 fitted, all red, everything, and you heard me right. I be swooping and we're hooping all damn night. I do this for my natives, I do this for my natives. He keep on hating, but I'm just demonstrating. I'm just demonstrating the ways I was shown. I was born and bred for the rest, that's why I call it home. You just leave me alone if you don't want problems. Me and my natives, yeah, we always gotta solve some. Cook that beef so we can eat and get about the day. I'ma ride, I'ma die, I'ma do it for my natives. I'ma ride for my motherfucking natives. Most likely I'ma die with my finger on the trigger. I've been grinding outside all day with my natives, and I ain't going in unless I'm with my native, 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 my motherfucking native, my 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 motherfucking native.
Waiting for my natives for the duration of my life. Non-reservation is the place I wanna find. So you better recognize I'm not stopping till I cop until my date of expiration. And it hits my end of time. It's one of the expectations that I'm gonna live by. Savage, I'm a different, always represent my kind. No need for explanation, you already know why. My natives,
I'ma ride for my motherfucking natives. Most likely I'ma die with my finger on the trigger. I've been grinding outside all day with my natives, and I ain't going in unless I'm with my native, 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 my motherfucking native, my 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 motherfucking native. Yeah.
That would get on there.
yo, come along, follow the map, my controller who
Maybe we won't listen to that one right now. I ain't gonna tell you who that was, what the title of the track was. Homie.
Check.
You don't need to hear it right now.
City natives in the building. You know. A mic check 1, 2. Alright, let's get it. Yeah. Just play the drums and sample. I hop on the track, known to kill the stage in every province that I'm at in. Don't you dare say my name, I'm probably gonna snap in. Leave your dad just like when your mommy's on the rag. I'm a zombie on the beat, walking with a swag, yelling louder than my team. Yo, we got this in the bag like the bomb is sweet I smoke. I promise that it's dope, but if you take a hit, then you're probably gonna choke. Yo, I'm pumped and I never pass to get a better blast. So tell beats and be not that they better match. Nah, I'm drinking, getting tipsy, and I don't even drink, but watch me get turned like the whole weekend straight. Got so much knowledge, but I won't teach it. So don't give me your advice, cause I don't need it. Got that money in the bank, I'm about mine. Keep my fam close, it's a cold world outside.
I had to get some bad habits that I once had. With the mind of an addict, I'm rapping with a blunt set. Smoking till my lungs hurt, high spread real low. Here to stimulate your mind, but I think you know it though. Diabolical style, some prodigal child. The product of my environment, the future is now. Surrounded by the real south. Yeah, I know what we all about. Getting money, making these moves, I'm on the right route. Demonstrate, let me demonstrate how I heard of it. The crowd rate increases, don't let you ain't heard of it. I never tell you mine for a living. I'm no magician, no. I take my thoughts to one another level. Devilish, I'm wild with a rebellious style. I say it loud, word of my homie Buzz. I'm just an ill child. The enemy is the epitome of realness. I know you feel this. I'm just a boy, bitch.
When it comes to rapping, I'm a motherfucking mastermind. Pack a master knife. Time to put these pussy rappers in the afterlife. I get the spasm when I grab the mic. It's the rapping savage antichrist. The best rapper alive. The best rapper even after I die. From drinking and driving, hanging out in the passenger side. Well, bitches give me ass, I end up crashing my ride. My flow is nutty, I'm cold and hungry. My body is phony, nose is runny. I'm broken, bummy, you go. Yellow with no sweater, a coat. In cold weather, I'm dope. My flow's better than most. I'm so fed up, but won't let up the go. It's here forever, I hope. You know better than the pope. It's so veteran, bro. More focused than I've ever been, yo. Let it be known, I got the medicine, the redder than your head in the rope. I show no love. It's the funk soul brother, get the flow so gutter. Fucking hoes, no brother, kill a newborn baby with a stone cold stunner. Time for war. Tonight we down in hell, grab a knife and fork. Never would have thought that if I slice a whore down the spinal cord to a vagina, chuck a tiny corpse inside the floor, that they would find it. Now I gotta find a ride to the other side of the border. My mind has been out of order since I was 9 and resorted to doing crimes with the homies. Ever since the day decided to show me. Yo, what's happening? I'm back again, this rapping shit is simple. Rap a pad, a pen, a pencil. Rap about the shit you've been through. Get the snapping on an instrumental. Just imagine when you're platinum, all the cash it gets you. It's the last official savage on this planet that can spit the baddest damage.
You know what I did? I started talking about that facial recognition shit. That's when the sound cut
Ambulance
out.
will have to get you. Promise I'm unstoppable.
Pretty sure.
Soccer hippopotamus in the boss with an ostrich on top of your mom with a soft dick. Not enough from other oxys and Dilaudid's in my pocket. I'm drop kicked in the job for talking the wrong shit. Off the bar, bitch. Rocking some long johns, a sawed off a cockpit. Ready to pop it off at your mom's kids, pops, bitch. Dogs, cousins, aunt, sis. If your uncle wanna rumble, put a couple in his cranium. All I'm saying is I'm trouble and I play to win. Ain't no way that you can take away the rage of me.
These are Micmac warriors, that's why I'm laughing.
I tell
These are my
myself to stay my
people
lane and play
saying
the
this
game of
shit. We've been
breaking in
fighting
and
like this
taking
for 500
everything.
years.
And I ain't taking shit. I'm waiting for my Mercedes
They
180
literally tried to kill
acres
us
of black
off,
with a
and
suck that
we
made
killed
it
more
on
of
up
them
with
than
them
they killed of
underrated,
us.
you
So we're still a
motherfucker.
little edgy
Better
about
run
that.
or I'm running over you. I'm fucking gonna make it though. Whoa, crazy. Whoa, that did.
Fuck, okay, so that's all those articles, but there's at least 2 that fucking didn't. I shared them, fuck it. Can't read everything out loud. I don't know this one. Well, I think he's gone. I'm not sure. So he's saying nothing.
De bak zaffen met een zak kosten centen maandelijkse toeslagen voor iets dat kan niet betalen kan. Johan, dinero para vloesman, plata, Babylon brandt in de band van Satan. België, looks like a dog, talks like a dog, looks like a dog, so it must be a geiland. Panama Papers, FF50, premies van laten, allemaal zeker. Wat er is, is het visserij, moet de voedselbank doodgevroren, daklozen in de grote steden. Meer en meer belastingen dan een landschappenplan. Vastgoed, maffia, gemeenteraadsleden. Veel te veel zaak voor veel te weinig vetzakken. Veel te veel redenen voor veel te weinig protest. Loop ik met de kudde mee, terwijl ik met de kraan lopen. Kan niet langer verder zo, alles is te duur voor mij. Alles is te duur voor mij. Je merkt het er niet, alles is te duur voor mij. Ik weet niet meer van niets voor mij. Alles is te duur voor mij. Alles is te duur voor mij. Alles is te duur voor mij. Je merkt het er, ik weet niet meer van niets voor mij. Alles is te duur voor mij. Adrenaline door mijn lijf, maak je geld voor de verwarming. Dubbel stress door al die rekeningen waar dat ik op achterloop. Niks te verdienen. Binnen in de schimmelwijk, La Belgique is te duur geworden. Alles wordt verwaarloosd, corrupte flikken, magistraten, politiekers, marginalen. Allemaal de schuld van het monetaire systeem. Dremmel die praktijken, stijgende stroomvoorzieningsprijs. Er valt hier niks te raten, zolang je de liter niks niet afneemt. Conclusies kunnen pakken, gele groene paarse pakken. Weet mijn schooien achter stoppen op, krijg geld om op de bus te stappen. Homies vliegen in de bak, deurwaarders gaan wisselen. Oog omhoog, tand om tand, kwaad naar anders sukkelen. Fijn dat keur aan die speedpad, de koe en couleur. Kijken door de keyhole van de glazen spiegeldeur. Slaak mijn eigen retten in, is omdat we kwaad worden. Iedereen rondom mijn lijf, want alles is te duur voor mij. Alles is te duur voor mij. Je merkt het er niet, alles is te duur voor mij.
How did he kill himself when he's gone? Yeah, that was 10 minutes.
Be my nigga, oh, that's fucking fire shit. Be my niggas, with some savage bitches. Be my nigga, stay with us some bad bitches. Always smoking no gas, bitches. Wanna pick with no gas, bitches. We ain't nothing like the other guys. Fuck with us, you went for a surprise. Smoking no minute for each individual.
That bitch kinda did it in.
Just so you can see the visual, we get it to you. Right to my gang. We play space game. You don't fall for it, just never miss a thing. We lurking in the street. Coming, we coming, nigga, it's in
Been tripping, leaving foes all over you niggas slipping from them. I roll through that gas, they feeling my trip, my swag. Niggas are sick of their game, but that's been back trying to give me a bag. Gang tatted on my chest, BBS diamonds on my neck. Only real running to my flash, nothing that running up. Okay, know what you I'm doing, I'm doing the movement. You know I'm in love with the mullah band. Talking about money and speaking in fluent, just listen to I'm about to school your snap. Get you a sack, don't fuck with a pack, flip it and double it back. Heavy your flip, heavy your stash, never spend all your cash.
Me and my nigga, hold us for the fire shit. Me and my nigga, with the shit with success. Me and my nigga, stay with us some bad bitches. Always smoking on gas with us. Rolling papers don't pass. We ain't nothing like the mother guys. Fuck with us, you went for a surprise. We ain't nothing like the mother guys.
Oh, I might as well read that fucking article. I don't know where it cut out. It took me 10 fucking minutes to read it. Jesus Christ. But I just gotta find it again. I better not get like a email in the morning. Hey, one of your subscribers killed themselves last night. You got anything to say? Oh, what the fuck is it? Death toll from coronavirus in China nears 1,400. That's a brand new article, but they just told us it's 1,500. Where is this? Oh, the firefighter calendar thing. Where the fuck did it go? It's not on the front page no more. Fuck, man. Well, I did read it. Okay, there's another way. I gotta go back to where I put the fucking link. I'll find it. What's the title? Domestic violence? Like, what the fuck? How do I find the bookmark? I'm assuming I have sound because he said fuck. I'm pretty sure he's responding to me when I was talking. There it is. So it says I posted it an hour. How did I post it an hour ago? I must have read it an hour ago. 32 minutes. That timer don't work for shit, eh? That skips seconds here and there. Shelters reach crisis level. Fuck. That article's 10 fucking minutes long, eh? The milk wasn't as cold as I thought it might be. Holy fuck, that was hot. That match struck twice. I smell it. How the fuck did it not light until the third time? Shelters reach crisis levels amid spike in domestic violence. Friends and family of a young mother stabbed to death in Mississauga this week are speaking out about the barriers facing victims of domestic violence. Brittany Newman, 25, was killed Sunday afternoon while her two young children were home with her. Peel police have charged the father of the children with second-degree murder. The couple were separated at the time of her murder. Not by much. Newman's family is understandably devastated, including her grandmother, who shared a close relationship with her. Gabriel Vording Newman spoke to her granddaughter only hours before detectives arrived at her Mississauga home to find her dead. I was mortified. I had hate. Every emotion that you could possibly fathom went through my system, said Vording Newman. I was in utter shock. She was really a special, special girl, and she was loved by so many people. There wasn't a bad bone in her body, not a mean bone in her body. Family and friends say Newman and the suspect went to high school together and had been in a 7-year relationship. Vording Newman adds that she never liked him because he was manipulative, controlling, and the couple's relationship was toxic. Quote, end quote. There were many times the family said they urged her to leave, and 2 years ago the couple split up. Quote, she had tried to get away from him, and she finally did, Vording Newman said. Completely new and fresh beginnings. She truly believed in the future. A close family friend who has connections to a Mississauga shelter, whatever that means, for women, helped the 25-year-old get out of the home and into a shelter. Newman then spent some time in transitional housing before finally moving into a basement apartment for herself and her two boys, aged 5 and 3. There was excitement for this new chapter in her life, which included going back to school and getting a job. Reporting, Newman said though her granddaughter felt free, she was still dependent on the father of her kids. I don't know what to tell you. Sell drugs or something. I don't know what to tell you. She was worried about the child support, and she needed the money for her children. Boarding, Newman said. She did everything right. She couldn't have done any better. So I don't understand what that has to do with him coming to her house. Because the FRO, Family, see, I don't remember this shit because they don't dog me. Family Responsibility Office. That's what it's called. Family Responsibility Office. How's that for a socialist fucking name for a government department? That you have to send them money that they send on to your family that you are responsible for. I don't know how he got in the apartment because she didn't want him there anymore. Okay, that right there's a problem. Vordig, Newman said, he knew where she was living and that was an issue. We told her as a family never to divulge that information, which implies that she did. I don't know. Brittany Newman's story is unfortunately not unique. Ask any frontline worker and they'll tell you there aren't enough resources available for victims and survivors of domestic violence. The Ontario Association of Interval and Transition Houses, OAITH, a coalition that includes a series of services, advocacy, and resources for women and children fleeing violence, is well aware of these rising challenges. Marlene Ham, the executive director of OAITH, said financial independence continues to be one of the biggest barriers. Quote, they can leave, but if they still continue to be financially dependent on an abusive partner well after they leave, they're still at considerable risk well after, Ham said. Well after. We certainly know that financial independence continues to be a barrier and also something that is contributing to that risk of continued violence and harassment. That's why Ham argues it's important to have access to resources like affordable childcare, adequate income support programs, money, and housing for women who are looking to leave their abusive homes or partners. All three of those come down to money. And if they had fucking money, they'd be gone, right? Yeah. Ham adds, well, I would hope so. Ham adds that just because a woman physically leaves a relationship, it doesn't mean that she's safe or that the violence, harassment, and control that she's been experiencing will stop. Quote, this is when we see our systems fail women, particularly our court systems, Ham said. Women can do all of these things and set it up, but it's men's behavior that is continuing to perpetrate this violence they're experiencing long after they've been through shelter and they've had those components to live independently. Every year, more and more women are reaching out to crisis lines in Ontario for help and support. Ham receives annual data from the province, which shows that between 2018 and 2019, there were 65,700 calls from women, which is a significant hike from 2016 and 2017 when there were 51,700 calls. When asked why there was such a dramatic increase year over year, Ham says it's likely due to the growing awareness around gender-based violence and the services available to women and children. While the crisis lines are often the entry point to getting information, accessing service, and immediate support, survivors need more than a number to call, Ham said. Women's Habitat, an emergency shelter for women and children who experience violence, has been operating in the GTA for 41 years. Sylvia Samsa, who's been in the industry since 1983, said years ago the shelter would have helped 100 to 150 women and their children in a given year. Last year, they served 44. The number is low because women are forced to stay in a shelter longer, leaving those in charge to turn away other women who may need refuge. Sort of makes sense. Every room is occupied every single night, she said, adding that a lack of affordable housing is keeping women in shelters for longer periods of time. For every woman who calls, I say we turn away about 20. Within a period of 6 months last year, the Assaulted Women's Helpline had over 2,500 calls, and they were able to shelter less than a quarter of those women because there was no space. It's obvious, she said, that the shelter system is at capacity and the beds available across the GTA for victims of domestic violence isn't enough. In the past, SAMHSA says women who were ready to transition from the shelter system were able to get housed within a 6-week period. Now, despite the fact that these women are on a priority program, it can take at least a year for a woman to secure affordable housing. The program, although good intentioned, isn't meeting the needs, SAMHSA said. The solution can't just be shelters. Some women don't want to go to shelters. It's like a hamster wheel. Women have a hard time getting in and then they can't get out. Women are dying to get in and then they can't get out because of a lack of housing. SAMHSA adds that some women in the shelter system get frustrated and end up entering the private market. $1,500 for a bachelor in the ghetto. Where the housing market, in the private market, where the housing market is much more competitive and they are faced with sky-high rent prices. If the housing market was more competitive, shouldn't it be lower prices? But anyway. With these shelters operating at capacity, funding continues to be one of the biggest concerns. How come China can build a hospital in 10 days? We can't build a shelter in 10 fucking years. According to him, the funding of shelters is a complicated situation as after years of underfunding and increased demand, the numbers can't seem to add up. Most shelters, like Women's Habitat, rely on government funding to operate. The previous Liberal government had promised shelters an increase of 4% annually, but with the new government in power, it no longer was an annual commitment. SAMHSA said they did receive the 4% increase last year, but won't know until around April whether they will get the extra funding. Every single year we are wondering what's going to happen next, said SAMHSA. What the hell happened to the rest of the page? There it is. Not having that commitment, according to him, impacts all the shelters funded through the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services, MCCSS. Sounds pretty... I know that the C is a S. MCCCC. No, we have S's here. MCCS. Sounds bad, man. Very communist and bureaucratic. This is impact, and that's what that ministry in particular is very socialist and bureaucratic, autocratic too, I think. This is impacting their planning and supports that they provide and creating unnecessary financial burdens. End quote of somebody. Kristen Tedesco, a spokesperson with the MCCSS, said the province is investing. Does she have an email address? Nobody in that ministry has an email address. Nobody. None of them use email ever, as far as I can tell. You cannot email any of these people. And if you call them, they refuse to answer their phones. You have to give them a number for them to call you back at. Oh, what if you don't have a phone number? What if you're using a phone right then? You could, like, how the fuck is that supposed to work? Kristen Tedesco, a spokesperson with the MCCSS, said the province is investing more than $172 million in supports for survivors and violence prevention initiatives, which this basically means this is not ongoing funding. Investment, yeah, one time, which include emergency shelters, counseling, 24-hour crisis lines. I don't know. Are you opening up new phone lines, or are you just paying for the ones that are there? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Safety planning, a child witness program. I don't know what that means. And transitional and housing supports. I really don't know what a child witness program would be in a shelter. I don't know what that is. If there was the court system or something, I would understand. But I don't understand in a shelter. In the GTA, Toronto, Durham, Halton, Peel, and York, the province is specifically providing $28 million to 26 violence against women agencies. It's in apostrophes. I don't violence against women, preventing violence against women, you mean? Agencies that provide a total of 722 beds. These, so it comes to like 40 grand a year or some shit. It's like a jail bed or some shit, anything like that. These agencies are funded by the ministry and provide transitional and housing supports for women and their dependents who have or are experiencing abuse. City News also asked the province for a breakdown of the funding the ministry specifically provides to shelters for women who experience gender-based violence year over year and what the funding might look like this year, but did not receive a response. However, while millions in funding looks good on paper, those on the ground describe a system that needs to be overhauled. Higher operating costs and shelters bursting at the seams have forced those in charge to rely on the communities around them for fundraising. Up until 2 years ago, shelters had not received any kind of fiscal increase or annual increase to their funding. That's a fiscal increase, I think, in over 10 years. So they got that 4% 2 years in a row. Okay. So, yeah, 4%. So the teachers want 2% of 96,000. That would, then half of that would be 48. 42,000 times 4% is still less of $1 increase because it's a much smaller number to start with. So they like to say 2% and 4% and 1%. But look at the fucking number they're applying it to. 96,000 times 2 is more than 40,000 times 4 or some shit. So up until 2 years ago, shelters had not received any kind of fiscal increase or annual increase to their funding in over 10 years, Ham said. As a result, shelters have had to fundraise significant amounts of money to deal with the demand because we don't want to be in a situation where we're turning women away. SAMHSA adds that while housing is extremely important for women to escape gender-based violence, it is hardly the only thing needed to allow them to succeed. One of the things SAMHSA mentioned she wished they could provide was scholarships and grants for women working towards becoming financially independent. Like in Brittany's situation, despite going back to school and getting a job, she still relied on the father of her children to support them. I don't understand that. I don't understand. I'm good with math. And I don't understand. What I basically don't understand is how did you get into the apartment in the first place? At all. And how did you get from a shelter to the apartment if it wasn't something you could keep? I don't understand that. I'm not criticizing it. I don't understand it. Wouldn't it be great if we could supply a little bit of a grant or scholarship for someone to go to school, SAMHSA said. Right now, we are struggling to make sure that we can provide the services that need to be provided. I think you need to focus on shelter, not school. That's just me. As Vording Newman spoke about the close relation, it's minus 30 out there right now, eh? That's some real shit, eh? That's not a magical, like an imaginary thing. This ain't California or Florida. You could theoretically go outside and sleep. You could fucking find some fucking abandoned house or something. Find an abandoned house up here. You know what it is? Minus 30 inside. Yeah. Or, well, I guess it'll be 20 because there'd be no wind to give you wind chill. But you see what I'm saying? It ain't so. Yeah, everything's free up here, sort of. You pay with your soul. Everything's free. It's very, very communist. It's liberal socialist. I pay very close attention to Russia the last 35 fucking years. Very, very close attention. Room got set. I'm not reading all that. She has a determination to fight for herself and for her two boys. I thought we were talking about the grandmother. She had a determination to fight for herself and for her two boys, one of whom has autism. They're supposed to, we just had this fucking argument with the government that they're supposed to get this money. And if you don't know how far back this goes, in the 90s, in BC, if your kid had autism, they would pay for treatment if you gave up custody of your child to the state. Why the fuck should you do that? Why the fuck should you have to give up custody of your child to get treatment for a medical condition? You can look that up. Sounds like a fascist dictatorship, right? Didn't I just say social liberalist nightmare? Yeah. Pay with your soul and your firstborn. Well, whichever one has the autism, you got to give us that one. She wanted to make sure she could equip him with the tools he needed to be successful, and prior to her death, Vording Newman said he was thriving. She was just a pure, beautiful soul. Every year, shelters in Mississauga host an event to remember the women who were killed by men. This year, the group of friends say they're in disbelief that Brittany will be added to that growing list. It's the reason Vording Newman said she is forced to speak out. She wants everyone to remember Brittany. There's lots of spousal abuse, and there's a lot of it in Mississauga, especially, Vording Newman said. There isn't the support out there, no support whatsoever. We had no knowledge because there's nothing out there really. We had a family friend with connections. So I don't understand. You have to have connections. They even said it. They had a family friend with connections, quote unquote connections, to a Mississauga women shopping. You have to have connections in this fucking country. I know. It's fucked up. See, in the States, if you have money, you can pay your way. Right? Up here, you could have the money and still, no, it's not good enough. No, we'll take some of your money. You still ain't getting what you want. Photo gallery on her phone. Love me so much. A GoFundMe page has been started by Vording Newman to raise funds for Britney's funeral. Did that really take me 17 fucking minutes? Oh, fuck. But we're at the top of the fucking hour, so 3:26, 3:59. Well, came back. He probably didn't kill himself. Probably. I don't fucking know.
680 News regional weather conditions for Walmart.
Love is in the air at Walmart. Right now, a dozen premium long stem roses are only $15.
I found the exact same problem searching for my own username.
At Walmart. In Pickering this hour, -14 with an overcast sky.
Jonestown Suicide Massacre.
-9 with some light snow there. Oakville -11.
Jim Jones, which is also the name of a fucking rapper. Thank you. I can't escape this shit.
For breaking news, traffic, bad weather. This is 680 News, Toronto.
Here are Scott Burnett and Christine Ritchie.
Good evening. This is Thursday, February 13th.
Here's what's making news this hour. One man has life-threatening injuries after a fire in a high-rise near Queen and Sherbourne. The Ontario Fire Marshal is investigating.
An extreme cold warning remains in effect for
Was it
Toronto.
free basement? Was it free base? That's what you think, right?
30 tonight.
It's a quiet night on the rails, and it could stay that way for some time. Via Rail service has been canceled right across the country as anti-pipeline demonstrators continue.
The TTC says it's looking into what caused the partial shutdown of subway service on Line 1.
I can certainly understand the concern that this derailment happened.
It is the second partial derailment in the last few weeks.
The Stars get off to a quick start against the Maple Leafs at Scotiabank. Sports at 15. Coronavirus concern back on the front burner for investors. Markets fell from records, and the wealthiest person in the world
Coronavirus in the business
big
section.
money on one of the most expensive homes in the world. We'll detail it for you in Business at 26.
News time 11:01.
Traffic and weather together on the ones. Craig here.
This report is brought to you by Monte Carlo Inns. So a bit of construction there, and we do have a crash that's blocking a few lanes of the north and south 404. So let's start there, where it's.
I was going to
it's
fact
not
check that
really
Napoleon
bad
thing. I'm not going to be able to because everywhere I look, it's going to say the same thing. Oh, they said it today, so it's got to be
But
true.
northbound 404, north of Aurora Road, the left lane is blocked. Southbound 404, the same area as you approach Aurora Road, the left lane blocked here for this crash cleanup that's been underway for a little while. Doesn't seem too bad getting through here. The rest is construction. So delays on the westbound 401 from Dixon to Brock Street, where it's two right lanes that they've got closed off. So just a single left lane is getting by. The Consumers ramp to the westbound 401 also shut down through Meadowvale. In the collectors, two right lanes are blocked tonight. We also have the ramps to and from Morningside blocked off. Southbound Kennedy ramp to the westbound 401, that's also shut down. But everything's moving well on the west 401 except through Whitby, Dixon to Brock Street. Very, very slow. Let's see. On the westbound QEW at Winston Churchill, it looks like they're going to be taking the two left lanes now. They just had the single left lane closed, but now it's going to be the two left lanes shut down as you go through this construction zone. Stretches Winston Churchill to past Ford Drive on the westbound QEW. Southbound Jane is still blocked at Eglinton for a crash, and northbound Sherbourne is closed Queen to Shooter for a fire investigation. Looking for a wonderful winter escape? Right now at Monte Carlo Inns, you can save 20% on a luxury suite. Go to MonteCarloInns.com and enter the promo code WINTER. Your next report is at 11:11, and with the forecast, here is Natasha Ramsahai.
A cold night here ahead of us. Temperatures dropping to -19. Wind chill -28 by the morning. So this is dangerous cold. Risk of frostbite. Could see some late evening lake effect flurries up towards Georgian Bay. Otherwise, tomorrow is mainly sunny. Much lighter in the wind department, but it doesn't take much wind to make our high of -9 feel like -15. Overnight tonight, we're dropping to a low of -19 degrees. And right now in downtown Toronto, -11, feeling like -18 with the wind chill. We have an overcast sky. 680 News Time, 11:03.
One man has been taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries tonight after a two-alarm fire in Moss Park.
680's Phil Martino joins us with more from the scene. A fire broke out in a suite on the 14th floor in the high-rise on Sherbourne near Queen just after 6:30 p.m. Toronto Fire Chief Matthew Pegg says crews pulled one occupant from that suite, and when he was taken away by paramedics, his vital signs were absent.
Yeah, we've been able to contain it to the suite of origin, so that's good news. Didn't extend out, and that, of course, has contributed to us being able to make the building safe and get people back inside.
Fire officials say they still don't have a cause. The Ontario Fire Marshal has been called in
Out of
to
these apartments,
investigate. I'm Phil
concrete, it's
Martino.
called fire cell construction.
And we have an
It's the
update on
fire
the
cells.
three-alarm
Think about
house
that.
fire in
It is a
Scarborough.
cell that
Toronto
contains fire.
tells 680 News that fire near Danforth and Warden is now under control. It broke out around 8 o'clock this evening. One firefighter had to be taken to hospital. Toronto Fire say their injuries are not considered life-threatening. No other injuries have been reported at this time. City crews have been called in to salt that roadway.
The deep freeze is here. Toronto and the GTA remain under an extreme cold warning, with Environment Canada calling for the possibility of wind chills near minus 30 overnight. Our meteorologist Natasha Ravzahai says the cold will not last. This is going to be a very short-lived cold snap, and that's the trend that we've been noticing over the years, is that when the cold does get here, it doesn't last very long. Hence the lack of ice out on the Great Lakes right now.
Oh, fuck it, that's 4 degrees Celsius year-round. That's why that ain't frozen, stupid.
Tomorrow, but by Saturday, good news, we should return to seasonal highs of minus
And I don't know
2.
how it stays warm. I think it's the sewage, but I don't know.
11:05. Via Rail is shutting down all passenger service across the country, and CN Rail is halting its service in Eastern Canada. Richard Southern joins us from the 680 Business Center with the reason why.
Not a good time to be holding Via Rail ticket. Your train won't be going ahead via canceling every single scheduled trip in Canada. It's
Another government agency.
Because the company operates on CN Rail Track, and CN has shut down its entire train network in Eastern Canada amid the ongoing blockades by anti-pipeline protesters. Those protesters say they're acting in solidarity with those opposed to the Coastal GasLink pipeline. And we caught up with James, a Via passenger at Union Station, who was left high and dry after an evening out at the theater.
In play, come from LA, and now we're stranded ourselves. Right now, we're going to Pearson
isn't that sweet?
Find out room. Via says it will refund everyone their money within 15 days.
It's an adventure. You're stuck in wherever you are at minus 30.
Major layoffs as a result of all this.
For 2020.
And after calls for the federal government to
You've got
step
more
in, the
computing
Trudeau
power
Liberals are
in your
now
pocket
taking
than
steps
you
to
can
try to
imagine.
end
You
the
can't get from point A
anti-pipeline
to point
rail
B.
blockades. We're also learning about a meeting
That's all
involving
the
the
government's
transportation
help.
minister and his provincial counterparts tomorrow.
The Federal Indigenous Services Minister has written a letter to the Chief and Regional Chief in the Mohawk Territory of Tyendinaga near Belleville, Ontario. He's offering a meeting this Saturday to discuss their concerns, and in return, he requests they cease their blockade of the CN rail line. As the minister awaits a response, Ryan Greer with the Canadian Chamber of Commerce tells me these demonstrations are having a severe economic impact.
Once you deal with them, you gotta deal with us, motherfucker. Once that blockade's gone, ours is going up, stupid.
Provinces and law enforcement to enforce
You
court injunctions against
stupid
demonstrations,
cocksucker.
and police have had a presence around these blockades. Meanwhile, a new poll from the Angus Reid Institute finds just over 50% of Canadians are in support of the pipeline, while 2 in 5 support the
They believe we're going to sell natural gas by boat to China, which has a pipeline of gas from Russia already built. The Chinese don't have any fucking money right now. In case you haven't noticed, everything in China shut down. They're going to build a port to fucking handle that? No, they're not.
Safety, transit, affordable housing, poverty reduction, protection of the
After what they did to the Huawei executive? No, they're not. They're not going to help Canada for anything. So where's this gas going to?
One of those big ticket items is an additional $6 million injected into youth-based community hubs, programs, and grants added less than 2 weeks ago. There was another quick mention of the planned 4.24% property
Gazprom supplies Ukraine, Gazprom supplies China. Gazprom makes Enbridge look like a little whore on the corner. Consumers gas. You know what the word consumer means? Drug consumer. They're not allowed to call them addicts or junkies. They gotta call them consumers.
Chinese health officials are reporting nearly 5,000 new cases of the coronavirus over the last 24 hours. Meantime, still only 3 positive coronavirus tests out of 340 in Ontario. One of them already
That's
resolved.
1%.
The 2 remaining patients are basically symptom-free, though still in isolation. Meantime, 12 Canadians are now among over 200 infected passengers on a lockdown cruise ship near Tokyo. Foreign Affairs Minister Francois-Philippe Champagne says others
Monsieur Champagne
may be allowed to finish out their 2 weeks in isolation on land.
We understand that from the
So what was
Japanese
the point of
authorities that they may
quarantining?
allow.
What was the point of quarantining anybody? You
some
spread it
people
around
to
and
disembark
incubated
from the
it.
ship
Now,
and
you
be put
incubated
in
it, now you're going to spread it
quarantine on
around.
shore.
Emergency teams of consular officials are on scene.
And happening right now, a portion of Line 2, the Port Danforth line, has closed for the night for subway corridor maintenance. No service between Kiel and Ossington. Shuttle buses are running, and regular service will resume in time for the morning rush. The gas price update in 30 seconds.
You can't go nowhere right now.
680 News, Toronto.
It's too late at night. You should be at home in bed. The streetlights are up. But when work comes, your ass better be at the fucking subway stop in the morning.
On the news, I just sat on the stairs and I cried. The song comes on, and we hadn't heard it in forever, and I don't even remember where we're going, but I know the windows were wide open because we are singing at the top of our lungs. People are driving by, they're staring at us, we're laughing, they're laughing. It was awesome.
Today, on World Radio Day, we remember the moments that bring us together.
680 News Time 11:10.
Now the 680 News gas price update and predicts the price will go up 3 cents at midnight to $1.12.9 a liter.
These might be the coldest days of winter, but this is the hottest sale of the year.
I got another Remembrance Day quarter. Remembrance Day, Remembrance.
Save big on great furniture throughout the store.
Caution, the sale you're about to enjoy is extremely hot.
Don't miss it.
Remember, souvenir.
Event on for a limited time at all 4 locations in the GTA.
It's French, remember.
Find out more at arrowfurniture.com. That's arrowfurniture.com.
Being an entrepreneur means always having ideas to grow my business.
Anything about
And when I
November.
turned to BDC to bring my ideas to life, they came up with solutions I hadn't even thought of.
At BDC, being the only bank exclusively devoted to entrepreneurs means investing ourselves 100% in our clients' projects. So when you turn to us to help grow your business, it's our turn to come up with ideas.
Go further with BDC. BDC, financing, advising, smarts.
680 News Time 11:11.
Traffic and weather together on the ones. Craig here.
This report is brought to you by Home Show, Home Improvement Edition. So a bit of construction out there, but everything is up to speed except if you're traveling through Whitby on the westbound 401. As you approach Brock Street and that bridge there, they are working on it extensively. So the 2 right lanes are closed. Just a single left lane is getting by this stretch. The consumers ramp to the westbound 401, that is also shut down. We have the ramps to and from Morningside closed as well tonight. The southbound Kennedy ramp to the west 401 is closed too. Eastbound 401 approaching Highway 25. It's the 2 right lanes that they've got blocked off now. Some good news, just like I thought from the last report, that crash north of Aurora Road and approaching Aurora Road on the north and south 404, that's been cleared away. It really didn't last long. It was only blocking 1 lane each way, so it wasn't causing a huge problem. Westbound QEW at Winston Churchill, the 2 left lanes are blocked tonight for maintenance. Southbound Jane at Eglinton, yep, still blocked. Toronto Police there not letting any southbound traffic. Jane and Eglinton, this is for a crash, and northbound Sherbourne is closed to Queen the Shooter for a fire. The GTA Home and Reno Show has renovated, so don't miss the Neighborhood Show Home Improvement Edition, February 14th to 17th at the International Center in Mississauga, presented by Remax. Your next report is at 11:21. The forecast now. Here's
Salvation Army
A
shelter.
cold night tonight with skies clearing, winds
Dollarama.
getting lighter gradually, but down to
And the
minus
building
19,
that has the
wind chills
fucking
near
fire.
minus 30. You could even feel like minus 35 up towards Lake Simcoe, Barrie,
Oh.
Orillia, and Midland. And then on Friday,
That's
mainly
still
sunny
pretty
skies
close
for
to here, eh?
Valentine's Day. That's the good news. Bad news is it's probably going to be the coldest day of the season. Minus 9, feeling like minus 15. Watch for some flurries tomorrow night from Oshawa eastward. Otherwise, Saturday is partly cloudy, back up to seasonal at minus 2. Tonight, we're down to a low of minus 19 degrees. And right now in downtown Toronto, minus 11, but feeling like a minus 20 with the wind chill. We have an overcast sky. 680 News Time, 11:13.
Justin Bieber launching his new album with a series of late-night TV appearances.
Yeah, you got that young.
Get ready for Justin Bieber Week on the Late Late Show.
Who the fuck is BTS?
There's an app for finding ghosts and an app that makes you old. There's even an app that lets you talk to an animated hippo.
I know what K-pop is. I'm aware of what K-pop is.
Download the Presto app and stay on top of your daily commute. Presto, tap on. With Autoload, reloading your Presto card is as easy as not going to the gym. In fact, it's probably even easier. Because instead of that guilty feeling you get
Isn't that the notorious thing? If you're from around here, you know.
You'll always have enough fare
They sign you up
Presto, tap
near
on.
December.
There are lots of ways to treat your cold symptoms. You can
Oh,
carry around
$1 a
Aspirin
month
and
for 3
syrup
months. You can cancel anytime. You don't go.
How about
You
those
start getting $40 a month or some shit pulled out of your bank account, and you never deal with it.
cold drops?
Or you try
One
to,
drop with a naturally sourced
but they get money out of you before you fucking deal with it. And you don't go, so it's free money to them.
For a retailer near you, visit colddrops.com. This product may not be right for you. Always read and follow the label.
This is All News Radio, 680 News. Overcast, -11 in downtown Toronto. Good evening from the 680 News Broadcast Center. I'm Scott Burnett.
And I'm Christy Ritchie. Here are the top stories this hour.
One man fighting for his life in hospital tonight as the crews battled a 2-alarm fire in Moss Park in an apartment complex. Crews called to the 14th floor of the building at Queen and Sherbourne just before 7 o'clock. Sherbourne remains closed from Queen to Shooter for this investigation. And Via Rail canceling all train service right across the country today after CN Rail shut down its eastern corridor. It's all due to ongoing anti-pipeline protests that are blocking tracks. 680 News Time, 11:15. Now 680 Sports from Sportsnet 590 fan George Ressick. The Leafs give up an early one and can recover.
Gurianov was in front of the net, but they couldn't get him the puck, and the Leafs now trying to get it up. Gurianov steals, he goes to the net, scores! Dennis Gurianov steals the puck along the near boards, and the Maple Leafs again, on the first shot on goal, have given up the opening goal, and it's 1-0 Dallas.
The Stars scored 80 seconds into the game and never gave up the lead in a 3-2 win over the Maple Leafs at Scotiabank Arena. Frederik Andersen returned after missing 4 games and made 16 saves. Austin Matthews and Zach Hyman scored for Toronto, who have only 6 wins in their last 15 games. Andreas Janssen also left in the first period with a knee injury. The only good news, the Flyers dumped the Panthers 6-2, so the Leafs are still 2 points up on Florida for third in the Atlantic Division. For all the scores from the NHL, check out sportsnet.ca. Vasek Pospisil lost to Filip Krajinovic in the round of 16 in Rotterdam, and Matt Kuchar has the lead at 7 under after round 1 of the Genesis Invitational. Tiger Woods is 5 back, while Corey Connors is the top Canuck at -1. Sports at 15 and 45 past every hour, or anytime at sportsnet.ca/590.
680 News Time, 11:17.
Be the first to know breaking news as soon as it happens. 680 News.
Visit Casino Ajax every Thursday in February for a chance to play Deal Breaker and win up to $10,000 cash. Hungry? We have daily dining specials from 4 to 11 p.m. at spectacular prices, including prime rib and 2 lobster tails on Thursdays and Fridays for only $14.99. Must be 19 plus and a Winner's Circle Rewards member. If you gamble, play smart.
Casino Ajax.
It's that time of year, auto show season. That means big events, big announcements, and even bigger deals at Nissan. Right now, get the 2019 Nissan Qashqai or Kicks. Get up to 3 payments on up to $1,000 value. And now, get up to 4 years of regularly scheduled oil changes also on us. It's kind of a big deal to get a deal this big. Offer ends March 2nd. Visit choosenissan.ca or your Nissan dealer. Conditions apply.
I didn't hear what car it was. That's Nissan. So I best an Infiniti.
Longest underground service
Free oil
disruptions
change.
in
The
recent
Jaguar don't give you
hours of no
nothing.
subway service today after a maintenance car derailed on line 1 just ahead of the morning rush.
For 7 hours, thousands of commuters had to wait in long lines in the freezing cold to catch shuttle buses because there was no subway service.
Is it
on
from like
part of
9
line
to
1.
3 or something?
The St. Andrews subway station across the street.
9 to 4.
Some
I
riders
guess.
telling me even though they've come to expect this from the TTC, it doesn't mean they like it.
They've come to expect it.
Work, but it's not your fault because you left on time from home, so you're frustrated. The TTC
This
is
is a cigarette,
apologizing
bro.
to riders, saying even though this is the
Where'd you
second
go? I was
partial
wondering where you
derailment
went.
in just the last few weeks, they maintain it's rare and plan to find
This
out
is
what
tobacco.
happened.
This is Mohawk tobacco. No additives, no gasoline, no flame retardant, no weirdo shit, no flavors, just tobacco.
An Oakville doctor already accused of sexually
If I had weed on me right now, I'd be smoking it, but I smoked it all right in front of you guys.
Investigators think there could be more possible victims. The latest allegation against 59-year-old Clarence Clotty involves a woman who claims she was assaulted between 2013 and 2016 when Clotty worked at Bristol Family Physicians in Oakville. Clotty was first arrested 3 months ago related to allegations he was sexually assaulted another woman who was his patient. There are rising concerns that
lots of doctors being caught in sexual assaults in
After several
Ontario.
strong
Man.
years of rain and snow, things are beginning to look not so great for California. With a nearly rainless December through February, close to half the state is now in the category of abnormally dry or at a moderate drought level. The U.S. Drought Monitor showing drought conditions are back in California. A few years ago, things got so bad residents were fined for watering their lawns on certain days or using too much water inside their homes. Alex Stone,
It's all about
ABC
believing.
News, Los Angeles.
There's got to be
Coming
shit
up in
out there,
60
but
seconds traffic and your extended forecast.
the former Canadian Defense Minister, the former Canadian Minister of Defense, oh fuck, that's his name, was on RT talking about the aliens he says for a fact exist. He says for a fact exist. He's the highest ranking government official in the world to come out and say this. Former Minister of Defense. Canadian military. Okay, go back a few years. World War II. You don't always talk about this. Canada was in like fucking gangbangers, and the United States had to be dragged in.
Buy one, get one at 50% off. Oh, Barbie.
We're very much a military country. There's a reason everybody thinks we're all calm and cool and collected. Yeah, because we got some big guns, so we're not worried about it. So I know I'm getting a little off topic. Aliens, there's got to be something out there, man. They've got fucking weird fucking signal. They're picking up radio signals from other galaxies now. We don't know what they are, but they're signals. They're artificial or something.
Hey, this report is brought to you by Audi Queensway. So we do have a bit of a slowdown on the westbound 401. Just one through the construction zone. I'm not seeing any other slowdowns on any of the major routes right now. So it's just if you're headed westbound on the 401 through Whitby, approaching Brock Street and the overpass, they've been doing some road work through here. And that's the reason for the delay. It's just a single left lane getting by this construction zone for you tonight. We have the consumers ramp to the westbound 401 shut down as well. The West 401 ramps to and from Morningside have been closed because of maintenance, and the southbound Kennedy ramp to the westbound 401, that's been shut down as well too. So we do have some lanes here and there, like through Meadowvale and the Collectors, and it stretches westbound in the 2 right lanes. So that's some construction that's out there, but everything's moving well through this zone. Eastbound on the 401, again, a couple of right lanes are blocked approaching Highway 25, but it's not worth mentioning. Everyone's navigating through this zone with no problem. Westbound QEW, we have Winston Churchill, another stretch where it's 2 left lanes that are blocked. Off the highways now, southbound Jane Eglinton is blocked for a crash. Northbound Sherburne is closed, Queen to Shooter, for a fire investigation. Take winter by storm. Enjoy.
Yeah, there's one lane. They fucking geniuses put in these bicycle lanes that are elevated and shit.
And a complimentary maintenance package.
There's one lane in each direction on Sherburne.
Your next report is at 11:31, and with the forecast, here's Natasha Ramsahai.
Gusty winds continuing this evening. Watch for some drifting snow, icy conditions because of that cold front that came through earlier today. We are down to minus 19 tonight, wind chill near minus 30 in the morning. It is going to be mainly sunny tomorrow. Got some lake effect flurries though out through Niagara Falls if you planned on heading out there tomorrow. Got a high of minus 9, wind chill minus 15 in the afternoon. Saturday, partly cloudy and minus 2. Watching the evening and overnight though, could be a little bit slick out there with a couple of centimeters centimeters of snow. And then Sunday, cloudy with some light but wet flurries with a high of 3 degrees. Tonight, we're dropping to a low of minus 19. And right now in downtown Toronto, we're sitting at minus 11, but it feels like minus 20 with the wind chill. We have an overcast sky. 680 News Time, 11:23.
Coming up at 11:30, one man is fighting for his life in hospital after a fire near Queen and Sherbourne. Tonight, we'll have the details
it's the
straight ahead.
same 6 stories over and over.
Why drive when you can ride for free with
It's too cold. There's nothing happening.
Sunday to Thursday now through March 31st. Take the bus for free to Gateway.
When do we do that drive-by? No, absolutely not. Not till fucking June, bro.
Offer available to card members and non-card members. Visit CasinoRama.com for the Angel Tourist bus schedule and conditions for entry. Call 1-888-817-7262 to book your seat. Must be 19 years old. See you soon at Casino Rama Resort and Gateway Casinos in Innisfil.
It's growing. The 680 News Weather Guarantee Jackpot. It's now over $15,000. You can win it all.
Enter now for your chance to win at 680news.com/contests.
The Ontario NDP now turning to a government committee hoping to force some answers about the controversy surrounding the Vaughan Working Families ad campaign.
The opposition wants the LCBO board member who's been publicly identified with Vaughan
Liquor
Working
Control
Families
Board of
and its
Ontario.
anti-teacher
How much
union
more communist and
to
socialist
appear
could you get?
before a government committee to explain himself.
Control. Liquor control. Second
NDP
word's
ethics
control.
critic Taras Nadashak.
Potentially $300,000 to place ads without being a registered third party. This isn't your neighborhood PTA association. This isn't bake sale money.
$300,000.
Lawyer Quinto Anabali to testify to the government agency's committee because he was appointed to the board of the LCBO by the Ford government about a year ago. But Nadashak says Anabali never said anything to that same committee that he was connected to Vaughan Working Families. We have reached out to Mr.
3 days
Anabali
ago,
for
you told us
comment.
Vaughan
No
Working
response
Families didn't
so far.
exist.
I'm Mark Douglas.
They insisted it didn't exist.
680 News Time, 11:25. The Ontario Principals Council asking the Education Minister to cancel this year's Grade 10 standardized literacy test and delay it until next year. They say the ongoing labor dispute between teachers and the government will affect how the test can proceed, given teachers' work to rule campaigns. All 4 major teachers' unions are engaged in various job actions, including a province-wide strike today by teachers in the French system